Mancrafting mugs. I've got mine. JP.
I've got mine.
Berkey.
I've got mine.
Hey guys, we want to welcome you to the Mad Maker Show. My name is Eloy. I'm the host. Co-host over there is JP. Let me mention a couple of things before we start. We got a special guest here today, and I think you'll dig the interview. We'll get to know a little bit more about Andy Birkey. I do want to shout out a couple of people. Mark Lindsay CNC. Shout out to you if you're out there. I hope you are, for all the support that you give, especially on Facebook and other places. I want to thank Timber Anew, which is Clint. I think he's in JP's neck of the woods. I might be wrong. Do you know about him, JP?
The name rings a bell.
Clint from Timber Anew?
Yeah, the name rings a bell. I can't say I've ever met him.
Well, the dude contacted me earlier today and said, "Hey, dude, I've been checking out your videos, and I noticed that your links were dead. And these are important links because I just started. I posted up a mini plan for scroll saw pattern for a sign that says patio on it and stuff. I'm gonna start trying to do more of that. So I have bigger stuff to do, but I'm sort of putting my toes in the water because it's a whole process to take care of. And he did that, and I appreciate it because my links were freaking dead, dude. So thanks. You know, if he ever sees this or if he's there at the moment. Brian McKnight, Patreon support, Woodworker631. Thank you so much. Also, Ryan Bitters and Amy Bitters. They've got so many things that's happening at the moment. There's going to be a show coming out, and I think it's December 7th. But I can't say much about it. But there's a cast of characters of crazies that's going to be on that, and it's a funny thing, so it's like a Christmas type deal. Can't say much more about it because loose lips, right? Also, let me see here, Steve Nealon and Patrick's workshop. They helped me out a lot last night to get this darn plan. Very simple plan, but Photoshop and then transferring it to PDF in order to print it out, the size, all that. What a nightmare. Well, they were helping me out with that, so shout out to them. And Steve is the head and originator of Nealon's Wooden Treasures, also Arneal Media and the Makers Media Network. So those links will be below. Anything missing, I'll add to it later on. Shogun Jimmy. Okay, I want to shout him out because Shogun, he busted out with this awesome bench like a month back, and it's like blowing up. It's just getting views. It's like 90,000+ views for this awesome bench. He did that for Izzy Swan's Tool Masters with some sort of whatever they do there, you know, and it's doing really good. I want to shout out Shogun Jimmy. And Charles Deering, just because. JP?
Before I plug myself and all that, I want to give a quick shout out to Dirk Gibbons from Sumo Projects. He recently just passed 500 subscribers, so he's from Down Under. So well done to Dirk. Anyway, to plug myself, I'm Jamie from JB Woodwork on YouTube. My website is jp-woodwork. I'm 1/5 of the Makers International podcast from makersinternationalpodcast.com. The website is all helped and run by Steve Nealon from Arneal Media, which is arnealmedia.com. And speaking of the podcast, we've actually got a giveaway going on at the moment. So if you go to the website, which is makersinternationalpodcast.com, go to the top at challenges and all that stuff, and just click the December giveaway, and just enter via the Gleam app, and you've got a chance of winning a resin package, compliments of lizard blanks. There's a few things we've quickly got to address before we get to Mr. Andy Birkey. The first one is Cole Jacobson has a fundraiser going on at the moment to get a mobile makerspace underway. Now, we all love Cole, especially me, and it's kind of Cole's dream for this. and I really know how much he wants to get this underway. So yeah, there's a fundraiser for Carl. Now, another fundraiser on a little bit of a not so good a note is William Osman. He recently lost everything in a fire. So another GoFundMe has been set up to help him raise a bit of cash, just to kind of help him get a bit of funds together, just to get himself back on his feet. So I'll post the links back in the chat in a second, so you can shoot over there if you wish to help to donate to any of them too. Then there's David Jones from Portal Woodworks. He's got a bandsaw box challenge through the month of December going on, if you wish to partake in that. And Javier Zwetter from Javi's Woodshop. He is starting a Twitch channel, CNC and all the things and bits and bobs about that. But if you've got a beard, you'll have to shave that off first. And that starts on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Eloy, back to you.
All right, thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
I need an oxygen tank now.
That was a lot, right?
Yeah.
Well, so on with the show. There's a lot of cool people, really cool people doing a lot of cool things on the level of doing what they do and on a level of helping each other out on all sorts of. It's just an incredible thing to experience. So I don't know, maker community, woodworking community, craft, whatever you want to call it. I call it the maker community. I got no problem with saying that, right? I like it. It's just amazing. The show, a couple of things for people joining in. This show, we call it the Mad Maker Show, and I do repeat it every show in a different way slightly. I've always felt the reason we call it the Mad Maker Show, I've always, in my experience, seen that people that are creative, that do amazing things, and it could be anything from woodworking to whatever, can we consider CNC woodworking?
I guess we can.
Oh, hell no.
No, he didn't. No, he did. From woodworking, electronics, crafts, leatherwork, drawing, it just, all these people seem to have amazing abilities, but I've always noticed that there's something a little bit off. Not off like a serial killer, maybe not, but for the most part, just off, eccentric, unique, individualistic. So that's what we focus on. We want to get into the mind of these people and see, what makes them tick as much as we can, and what inspiration that we can gather from that for ourselves. So that's the gist of it. And by the way, today we have a maker, an adventure, amazing stories, amazing life journey. I'm very inspired by them, and so are a lot of people. And I think, to be bold, fits within the name, the title of Mad Maker, my opinion, right? And that's Andy Berkey. And Andy Berkey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. I was hoping you would ask me to come on.
Really?
Well, I wanted to wait to go, but he was like, no, ain't happening.
Yeah, two of my favorite dudes. Let's go. Let's talk.
Well, I want to start off with I want to start off like this. When I first came across you, right? It was on Facebook in a private group that we all share. It's a closed group, but it's private. And you always drop little nuggets of inspiration and positive, which I relate to completely. So that's where I first, heard of you. And I just want to start off by asking you, just give a little brief summary of what you do, where you're at, whatever you'd like to start it off.
Well, I'm Andy Berkey. I've been making a living making for 34 years now, I believe, and started out as a carpenter and was real fortunate to apprentice under a Swedish carpenter out in Seattle, where I grew up, near Seattle. And the advantage I had with him was that there was just kind of this unrelenting pursuit of perfection. Just marginal was not acceptable. So that was kind of the headspace that was drilled into me, and just pushed it from there. So I worked with him for about 5 years, and then took off from there. And it's been a let's just say a circuitous journey.
Dude, I'll tell you, I've studied up. There's a lot of interviews out there, a good amount. The best one, and I'll just say it here because we mentioned it prior to coming on. To me, see, it's. I have to say it. It's my favorite one of the ones I've seen. Maybe I haven't seen the best one, but to me, the Jack Bench one with Charlie, I just enjoyed it thoroughly because it was just a total adventure. Just a freaking adventure. You could write a book, 3 volumes, no problem. So that was my favorite interview. Before we go on, JP, whenever you want, you can interrupt to know who's out there, because I'm not watching out there. I'm focused here. And if they have questions, all you guys out there, feel free to.
I tell you what, let's just quickly run through of some of the people that are out there now. We've got Javi's Woodshop, Shogun Jimmy, Matt Huss, TJ's Woodshop, Katie Dotson, Ragtie, Steve Nealon, Muddy Fences, Tracy Keaton, OJ's Woodworking, Dave Gatton, me, Dan the Maker Man, Wood Nerd, Robin Jacobson, Cacao.
Hi, Robin.
Bales is out there. Doc's out there. Valerie Mora, which I believe is Shogun Jimmy's better half.
Yes.
Billy McCord, Mark Lindsay, CNC, Michael Lowen, as well as a few others.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
The chat's going.
I apologize in advance. I
The
just
chat's
apologize already.
the chat's going pretty fast.
So, Berkey, so I've studied up on your, so I kind of know there's a lot to go through. So I just want to mention that you started off your life journey in a place out in Washington.
Right.
And your spirit, your nature is very bold and adventurous. You have that. Okay.
Guilty.
Guilty, yeah. Dude, when you were fairly young, you had people coming over. Can you explain? You had people doing missionary work coming over to your area, and it inspired. Could you give us a little bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, Dad was a preacher, and he was big on missionaries, supporting missionaries, in foreign lands and things. And what missionaries do, like U.S.-based missionaries, would go to wherever they were going for 4 or 5 years, and then they would come back and they would tour around the States for a year and try to raise money for their next jaunt, or whatever they call it. So these people would come and travel around, and quite often, we had these people who had lived, from anywhere from Papua New Guinea to, Colombia, Ecuador, all over the place. But they would come and have a typical couple of nights or something. But obviously they would sit around and tell stories about, the weird stuff that they got into in foreign lands. And I was a little kid, I would sit by the hour with an atlas, just dreaming of being gone. And that was a prophecy that came true real quick. So it was,
yeah, I want to Quentin Tarantino this and chop time going into another section of your life. I was very taken, you know, shocked, and shocked is a little exaggerated, but like impressed. Yes, impressed. You were restoring and have been things inside cathedrals, churches, and this is recently within, we'd say, the last 5 to 7 years or further back.
Yeah, through kind of a weird set of circumstances, I got involved in the Catholic Church, restoring their, you know, in the U.S. they're old. We call them old, but they're, you know, 100, 125-year-old churches. And I dig it. I dig it because it's kind of has a higher purpose. You know, whether you believe in it or not, it is bigger than, you know, somebody with a lot of bucks wanting a new, you know, dining room table. There's a bigger purpose for it, which is kind of cool, you know. And it's actually not being Catholic. It's actually the fun part about it, and the challenging part was to really learn how they use their space. So you can build stuff for that space. So there's a lot of pre-research that goes into it. And like one priest told me, he said that I was more Catholic than most Catholics, because you know, I've just had to know so much about how they do things. So, well,
I'll tell you something, just so, and you know this, you guys know this, we all know this, but it's incredible when you that repair that you did of a statue. I think it was, you fixed an arm or those. I've had people come back and say, "Well, did you see that?" Even like a year or two after you posted that video, because it leaves an impression. Such a cool thing to work on something that most people would not really even, you know, like it's got to be a unique crossroad where you're doing that. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it is. It's weird because, and it's funny because I have a pretty cool friendship with 3 or 4 different priests that we've, you know, worked very closely together, and it's just weird because I have this sort of, I'm highly involved in their world, but I'm also outside of it. So it's kind of this strange involvement, and you know, it's just a full-on objective understanding, trying to understand objectively their world and how they operate, and you know, the value of, for instance, a processional cross that has a broken arm, you know, because some 12-year-old kid whacked it into the door. You know, so fun stuff.
Now, also, within what those things that you've been lately working with lighting and wall window, can you give us, because you shared a couple of glimpses of your, is that right? Am I off?
Yeah, I've been doing some LED work in some restaurant. I did a big restaurant sign, interior sign.
I remember that one. It was metal.
Yes.
And then
right. And then just recently I did an 8-foot tall headboard, Gothic arch headboard that was backlit with some LED lights. That one was really fun because it had to go together at the last minute because I couldn't stand it up in my shop. My shop has 7-foot ceilings in it. So so we didn't know for sure if it would go together until we took it outside and turned it on.
And you do post most of your activity, like sort of on a daily basis over there on Instagram, right? You'll post what you do there.
Yeah, mostly just because it fits. Most of my stuff is obviously visual, and so the format fits, and I try to bring it over to Facebook as much as I can, but I just dig the setup at Instagram, and it works for me. So
okay,
we've got a few pictures No, we've got a few questions from over the chat.
I just want to say I've got a million questions. Let's go to that, but I just wanted to put that out there.
All right. The first one, it seems like it should be answered pretty easily. It comes from Timber Anu. It says, "What's up with the Union Jack?"
Well, this is for Jamie, but I also have a good affinity for the UK. I did go to school there for a term, and back in the punk rock days, 81 to 81, I think it was, and I was lucky to survive, but wouldn't trade it for the world. And I'm a Brit from a different continent.
And also, can I say, it's only called a Union Jack when it's on the back of a boat. It's actually called a Union flag.
There we go.
And another question from Jimba Shears. He says, "Ask Andy if the college study deal he made with his dad helped him later on restoring for the church."
Say that again.
That's a good question.
Ask Andy if the college study deal he made with his dad helped him later on restoring for the church.
Boy, that's a good question. Yeah, it did, Jim. Here's the deal. Growing up in my dad's house, there was a requirement that you would go to 1 year of college, Christian Protestant college. And so what happened is I didn't want to do that. I was done and ready to go, but that was the rules. So I found a school that had campuses in southern Germany and in Lancashire, northern England. So off I went, and the influence was I'll never forget it as a kid landing in Brussels. I'm 17 and a half years old, and just the cathedral was right outside, and especially from Seattle, where old buildings were I don't know, maybe 75 years old. You go outside and here's something that's 10 times that old, and just the whole idea behind those old cathedrals was to make you awestruck. Their concept was that would give you an idea of God, right? Well, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you what, they definitely hit the chord with the awestruck thing, because I weirded out on that the entire time I was in Europe, and quite frankly, that was a pivotal point in my world. It was amazing. So yeah, definitely it did, Jim.
Yeah. Well, there's another one that should be answered fairly quickly. It's from Tim Webster. He says, "How much sleep does Berkey get? He is up at all hours making and taking pictures of sunrise and sunset and moonscapes. I don't think the man sleeps."
Are you stalking me, Tim? I don't have a normal sleep schedule. I can be sleeping at 6 o'clock in the evening and wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock and go out to the shop, or I can I take naps. I tend to bookend the day. The early part of the day I like, and the late part I like. Basically, wherever there's no people, that's the part of the day I like.
There we go.
All right.
I do actually have one more, but I've got a feeling.
No, go ahead.
I've got a feeling you've actually got this question written down.
Do it up.
All right. It comes from Matt Huss. From Awesome Wood Things. He says, "Berkey, how awesome is that shaper tool?"
I would put it in the too awesome to describe category. A little backstory for people that aren't familiar. I've been really lucky to be working with the Shaper Origin and the Shaper company that's putting out a handheld CNC machine. And I've worked with their product development guys, pre-production. And basically what they did, in my opinion, is they did all this engineering and software design and all this, and then they gave it to the Neanderthal guy to see if they dumbed it down enough. So basically I would turn on a camera and work my way through the user interface. And apparently what I was told is their engineers would take their lunch and watch these videos. And I could just, God, I'm glad I wasn't in that room with them, because I'll bet it was hilarious. But it's been really cool, and it's an amazing machine.
Yeah. See if you can break the interface. Give me a minute.
Exactly. I said, are you sure that's the terminology you want to use? Because I'll do it.
Now, oh, go ahead, JP. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, going back to you, Eloy. It's your show.
So you have, just writing on that, you have videos where you say, give me a minute, and you go through the process of, it could be a tip. It could be, can you explain a little bit about that? Why? Just, your thoughts and the spirit behind it.
Well, it was actually Wes Swain's idea from Geeksmithing. He, I forget what the heck, I in my world, I have trouble putting out, chunking off time to make, full on build videos. I really would want to, hopefully heading in that direction. But in the interim, I've just been reminded by people around here and stuff that, to give little snippets of information that are gleaned from 30 some years. And the Give Me a Minute is really, really cool, because a lot of times those are literally like, oh man, this would be a good one. And you turn the camera on, and 20 minutes later it's filmed. And then another, half an hour after that, it's edited and on the YouTubes.
Right.
So they're really just kind of a brain dump for me, really. And it's very funny, because it seems like the original thought was for the short attention span, but I find that because the commitment initially is only a minute, people tend to, in the analytics, I can see them, they can drop right down through and probably go through all, 34 of them now or something like that.
It's funny.
It's kind of like, peanuts. You can't just do one of them.
Well, yeah, you just reminded me that with Ryan's comedy show, Maker Comedy Show, you had done a Give Me a Second in there, which tripped me out, because I'm sitting there and I said, I'm watching it the first time I seen it, and you guys can go on Waylight Creations channel and go back and see last season, and there's a new season coming out this, like the 7th, I think it is. I don't quote me on that, but I think so. But Andy was part of that, and so he in his skit, he does Give Me a Second, and I'm sitting there watching, and there's Berkey. He says, give me a second, and then he's gone. I'm like, what? I had to process that, because it was so.
That was Ryan, man.
And then I went back and thought, oh, okay, because where'd Berkey go? Yeah.
We've got another quick question from Javi, and I think it's actually a really, really good question.
Yes.
Obviously, Berkey's known for some of his very, very beautiful pictures that he's taken. One of the ones was of me in Atlanta, but that's besides the point.
That's true. That's a beautiful shot.
Javi wants to know, what is the most beautiful natural landscape you've ever experienced or photographed?
Can I have two of them? If I can have two of them,
yeah.
Would be Angel Falls in Venezuela, which is the highest free-falling waterfall in the world. Some, I believe, 1,300 feet, I believe it is. Absolutely stunning. I was able to do that. And then the other one would be the live volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii. That was just, I find it difficult to describe it just because you're looking into the jaws of hell, as it were, and New Earth. The world is creating itself anew right in front of you. And to try to get the power, try to capture the power that it is coming from, the bowels of the earth. It was a stunning experience.
I want to
Great
remind.
question.
Yeah, that was bad to the bone, because it also brings in the photography and stuff. Although it's been touched on. I want to remind folks that in the description and below later on or whatever, you can reach out and head towards his Instagram, Andy's Instagram, and other sites as well. There's other links there for JP if you're coming in for the first time. We're part of a community that we're close and loose tie of friends that actually know each other to lesser and greater degrees and keep in touch with each other. And in fact, most of the people in the chat do that, and it's an incredible experience. So if you're into making and you've come here from another side of the world, or you're here in this country and you just discovered it, these are people that you'd like to go and follow, because they bring inspiration into your life. Which on the heels of that, I want to say that Berkey, you also have a little character, and he's got a name. For those that don't know, I know, but could you hit us with that a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird deal. This is Seymour Make Better. And Seymour is my logo and a painting that I did probably 7-8 years ago. And yeah, he's just an encouragement to, I feel like a lot of people think that you can just go to your shop and be so, plastered into what you're building that you come away with masterness, whatever you call it. I go the other way. I think that you basically have a reservoir inside of you of creativity, and you need to refill that and get out and see stuff, see architecture, see landscape, see stuff that other people don't. And I think if you walk out your door with the stated goal of seeing more than the average person, your whole creativity is just going to go off the chart. And so Seymour is a reminder to get out and see stuff. That way you can make better.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing, and it's a very powerful reminder. Like,
it is.
Every time it is.
Someone should get a tattoo of it.
I was going to say, Jamie, how powerful is it?
It's a very powerful tattoo. Someone should get a tattoo of it.
Okay, here's the thing. Let's bust this open right now. So there's a lot of strangeness surrounding. So what we'll do is this. JP, I had never met this guy JP before in my life, but he did come over here to America, and he went to the Atlanta show, which, by the way, Berkey also was there. There's a lot of stuff. Berkey, you were part of a happy birthday for me in that video. Yes. Everybody said, do you want to say happy birthday to Eloy? And everybody was like, no. And I think you said, I'm good, or something like that. It was hilarious. But JP has a tattoo. JP, can you tell that story? Why do you have Seymour Make Better on your leg?
Why have I got it? It's basically, I'm just a fanboy of Andy.
Show that picture again. I'm sorry, JP. Show that picture again so we can
show the picture again. Yeah. Give me 2 seconds then. Why have I got it? A lot of people thought it was because I kind of fanboyed over Andy. No, I've just opened up music file. I don't want to do that. I guess the main reason is it's a kind of a way to, when I don't feel like making or whatever, it's kind of a kick up the backside, if you like, to kind of get me motivated to, you know, it's kind of a reminder to get out into the shop, you know, and kind of remind me that I do love this stuff, and you know, and
That's amazing.
Not let things get on top of you. And because there was a time in my life, because I don't know if you listen to my episode on the Makers International podcast, you'll know that there was a time in my life that it was quite dark, and well, that's kind of a reminder that there is light at the end of the tunnel at the end of the day, and you got to live that light, if you like.
That's awesome, dude. That is. What do you think of that, Andy? So Andy, look, you touch people on many levels. You know, I don't think you underestimate that one bit. But are you surprised at all the people that you reach with your thoughts, your creativity, and your life journey, and the things that you share through photos? I mean, that's an impressive thing, dude.
I'm having a little trouble here after Jamie Steele. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's humbling. It's
on the plus side, I've got a burger on the other leg.
Yeah, there you go.
and
that burger.
And I've got Izzy standing next to him as well now. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you. And I'll come just look for the file.
He is going to show us his leg, isn't he? Okay. There we go. I tell you what.
Say something, JP, so it can pop up.
There you go. You just click on my picture.
Unbelievable.
Izzy and Andy standing together. And there's more to come, because it's hashtag make a leg.
Make her leg. Nice.
Because it's also got Rob Summer and Steve Twidell on there as well. They're around the back. You couldn't actually see them properly.
So, and it's funny because during the Atlanta show, JP and Mark Saunders got in their car after all that was done, and everybody went back to their respective homes, and they did a sort of odyssey journey down the eastern side of the U.S., you know, and they came down here and they stopped at, which I was honored to have them over and to meet JP. By the way, Javi was there too. I've got videos on that on my channel, but we went for a gator airboat tour, and JP's he filmed himself, because JP, for those of you who don't know, he's nuts, right? He films himself lathering up with that sunblock, the tattoo, and it's just hilarious stuff. I'm telling you, it's good fun.
It's actually on your channel, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's better when you know the story as opposed to saying it, because when you think about it, boy, this is pretty crazy stuff. You know, he's lathering. Trust us, it's funny stuff. I do want to mention something. See, Andy, it's very difficult because I want to touch on your journeys towards the Caribbean. Right. I wanted to, but I need to finish off with this Atlanta thing, because I think it was in Atlanta that you did a can I say? Well,
sure.
You know, so in Atlanta, for you guys that don't know, so Andy always gives out, not always, but you know, he can be regular old dude, but he does give nuggets of inspiration, especially in situations that might deem it, you know, necessary. he's standing out there, and I think they were giving away a raffle, and there was a bunch of makers there, and they were filming. Andy and Jimmy DeResta are standing there, and I think Jimmy puts his hand, or you, and he puts the mic on you. And what did you say? What was it? It was funny because you said stop. You said, you guys out there, and millions of people saw this. You guys out there, stop watching Jimmy DeResta. And Jimmy DeResta had the mic, his face was like that. and he says, and start like understanding, listening, watch. Can you explain that to us? Because it was like hilarious. Hilarious.
Well, this is I was dead serious. I mean, it was kind of a weird twist because, you know, it was a fun kind of crazy time, but, you know, it was something I wanted to get across, and that was for people to stop watching, especially Jimmy, as purely entertainment. Not that there's anything in the world wrong with that, but the next step I really want people to take after that is to start studying Jimmy. And I've been in the shop a long damn time, and watching Jimmy carefully, how he moves around his shop, the way he organizes. He's like I am in that he doesn't have cut lists and all that. He's kind of has this reactionary design process, but there is an order in his madness. And I really wanted just to get across, you know, that thing of, you know, take it serious, because that dude has he's got a lot to say without saying anything at all.
Yeah, and I'll say even on that level and on the level of even filming the life occur. See, that's another thing that you share. We all have these stories. A lot of people out there might feel that their story, because of whatever life occurrence, is not necessarily worth telling to others beyond the scope of their, you know, close-knit friends and stuff. And I don't think so. I think that all these stories are, mind you, how many people will watch or not watch or whatever, that's up to people. But I think all stories are worth putting out there and told, I feel. And he does it very well, that guy. You know, he creates a world around him. And you do too, incidentally. A very powerful sort of tiered world of photographs, pictures, video, sayings, thoughts, all these things. What do you think? Well,
I don't view my world as, I go to work and then I go into the shop, or then I go, this is a homogenized train wreck of creativity. My life is. So it's just this. My wife doesn't like to walk down the street with me. And this is honest to God truth, because everything's so freaking interesting to me that it's a train. She's like trying to herd me, to get to the store or whatever, because I'm studying shapes in the sidewalk, or, the way the light's coming off of a window, or some crazy. But to me, that full sensory baptism, and it's freaking crazy interesting out there. But it's not at all if you ignore it. You gotta be fully immersed in life and be paying attention, because there's cool stuff out there.
Awesome. That's well said, dude. I like that. What was it? The train wreck homogenized. That was like awesome. Can we? You know what? That's going on the write-up, the Q&A web. I don't care what it is. That's perfect. That's the title. That's the title. Train wreck homogenized.
My life is.
That's my life is because you're looking at all the street, the shapes of the streets and all that. Like, yeah, that's what she's telling you.
Can you quote that again? My life is a what?
Homogenized train wreck of creativity.
That's the title. That's it. I don't care.
There it is.
What is the? What is is the chat having any questions or curiosities?
There was one from Brian Bales. He said, "What's the oldest piece Andy has worked on?"
Well, I worked on a sugar warehouse in the Caribbean that was from the Dutch colonial era, which I would have to go back and look, but that might be 1700s would be probably the absolute oldest thing that I've worked on. And again, in European standards, that's not very old, but for the Americas, that's about as old as we get.
Yeah, and then you went even older and had a shave.
In where?
Then you went even older and had a shave.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I've got another question from David Jones from Portal Woodworks. He said, if Andy could have 5 tools from his shop to keep and use, what 5 would it be?
If I had 5 tools to keep and use?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I come from a carpentry background, so it would be table saw, chop box, drill, my brain, and my eyes.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
So what happens to the router, dude?
Yeah, you know, that's the problem with the questions like this is as soon as you finish answering it, it's like, oh wait, I should have. No, I tell you what though, if I were to answer it more, you know, on an esoteric level, you know, my senses, my 5 senses, because that's really where it all comes from, you know, and that's where it starts and that's where it ends. You know, if it is straight, what is it? What's Jimmy say? If it looks straight, it is straight. If it feels good, it's finished. You know, that's kind of where I'm at.
Just need to get hit in the face with a bucket of visuals.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question from a couple of questions actually. We've got another one from Matt Hoss. It says, does Andy have any formal photography training? 0.
Absolutely 0. The only thing I have is I do some work for a fairly famous painter, and he will, whenever I go to, I'm building some canvas stretcher frames for him right now, and when I deliver it to his studio, he sits down with my photos that I've taken since the last time that he's seen them, and he critiques them for me. And usually it's in some kind of, you know, the other day he said, why are you taking photos like you were born in the 1800s? There's always something in the foreground. Knock that off. So he's always doing that. But I'm a total hack. The reason I get some photos that are worth looking at is because I'm always taking photos. And when I was doing concert photography quite a bit, I would take anywhere from 700 to 1,000 shots a night and hope to come up with, you know, a dozen. So that's kind of, it's kind of the machine gun approach, you know, spray it all down and see what happens.
Yeah. And one from Jake Thompson, he says, I love the 1 minute series that you do. What made you start doing it?
It was kind of selfish in that I wanted to put content out there, but I didn't have the time to do big build videos like everybody does. So it was kind of selfish so I could get some content out there, and also I dug the format, and I thought it might strike a chord with everybody kind of having a shorter attention span, because it's very unintimidating. You know how sometimes you look at a video and as soon as it comes up, you go, it's 8 minutes. Do I have 8 minutes? Well, those are 1 minute. So, you know, it's like, who doesn't have time for 1 minute?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Yeah, that's it for Tommy.
all right, cool. Good questions, by the way. So I want to touch on, I can hear my voice echoing somehow. I want to touch on, there it is again. I want to touch on, and then it's psychedelic, like that Pink Floyd song that JP was talking about. It repeats and repeats and repeats. In the Caribbean, so there's a lot of stories there. There's two that I enjoyed. It's going to be difficult to place them together unless you explain the whole thing, but I guess you'll do what you do. So I'll mention one, and out of context, it doesn't make sense, right? But you were working construction in the Caribbean. I forget which island it was, but in the story, if I recall right, it was a real poverty-stricken area, and you were shocked to see this and had appreciation. You told in a few of your interviews, or one of your interviews, probably the Charlie one, and you were staying with a family, and they gave you some cereal, and you were hungry, and they asked, would you like some more? And they gave you more, and they did, and then you had a realization. Can you, I know this is out of the blue, but I found that story was very perceptive of you, sensitive. I mean, it's an obvious thing, but it was a very touching thing for you to state that, a teachable moment. Could you hit us with that?
Yeah, sure. It was in, I was doing some work in Haiti, way out in the southwest end, and just people don't have anything, man, and that's not a general term. They don't have anything, and I, through a series of circumstances, I kind of surprised a lady that I knew, had gotten to know. Early in the morning, I left where I had slept and just jumped on one of those buses that there's like 200 guys hanging off the side of them. And so I just jumped on that and showed up earlier, about an hour earlier than I was supposed to. And this lady was kind of embarrassed that she wasn't ready to feed me breakfast. So she brought out a box of Kellogg's Corn Flakes, which I hadn't had in a long time. And so I had 3 bowls of them, and she was very excited that I was all about it. And then the in-country guy showed up and said, so, you know, how was the cereal? And I said, very, very good. I haven't had it in, years. I'd been on the road for a while at that point. And he said, well, good. I don't want you to change your facial expression or anything, but just know that that box of cornflakes is the equivalent of a month's pay for her. So I just want you to be mindful about how much she appreciates you helping the village there. And man, you know what? That was something that I think about. That happened in the mid '80s sometime. And, to this day, it's just one of those things that is as humbling as it can be. I just have not been in a situation that someone willingly gave me, a month's worth of pay of their life, just because they were very thankful for the work I was doing. And it's like, man, yeah, I'm just, you think you're pretty cool until you run into something like that, and you're not cool. I think you try to live up to that sort of example. But yeah, I'll never forget that lady, man. Unbelievable.
I'm telling you.
I gave you the Berkey bowl. That's a start.
Sorry?
I gave you the Berkey bowl. That's a start.
You did.
Well, that's so cool. I thought that was a good story to share, because it's pretty heavy hitting. So during your I think you ended up in the Caribbean, but then you came back to the States, and then somehow at one point you ended up and by the way, I have a video. I just want to say this. I have on my channel a video. I reached out to Andy and said, hey, dude, I'd like to do an interview, but let's do it in a crazy way because, I perceive you as, surreal and this and that. And I know there's more to you than that, by the way. Just so that you know, Andy, I know you're not just like, like Salvador Dali going nuts. And like, I know.
It's truer than you know.
But I like the fact that there's a little bit of that, insanity spread in there because, creativity. So I like the story that you are in the Caribbean on a ship. And by the way, I've got a video where I did this whole thing for it, but if you want to check it out, you can. You're in the Caribbean on a ship, and there's a freaking storm or hurricane.
Yeah.
And you might lose your life.
Yeah.
Hit us with that,
Yeah, for a while, because I was traveling with no agenda whatsoever. I was just wanting to be gone for most of my, for about 5 years in my 20s. So one of the things I did was blue water, what they call blue water deliveries, which is moving sailboats around the world. And at one point we left the U.S. Virgin Islands heading for Manhattan Island, New York. And we heard on the radio that another boat that we were at dock with had just turtled, which means they went all the way over and lost 3 hands. And we knew that they were south of us, and a storm that we had been keeping an eye on was coming through them towards us. And so it was a pretty sobering time as a 20-something to be hunted, really. That's what it felt like, especially knowing that some guys you were just drinking beer with on the dock, had lost their lives. And we knew it was coming, and I just remember the captain coming out of the hatch one day and saying, look, it's got us dead to rights, and I don't want to hear any whining because every one of you guys is here from, your own choice. So the only way we survive this is to steer every wave. And that's what we did. We literally had to traverse every wave for 72 hours, I think it was, with about 70 knot winds, I suppose, and waves, long waves. They were long ocean waves, but we estimated them to be about 60 foot tall.
Insane.
Trough to crest. And, it was just one of those life lessons where you just have to say, okay, I made this decision, and the only way I'm getting out of it, even a chance of getting out of it, is by doing my job really well without losing attention. And, and I guess there was a higher purpose or whatever, because, at some point you make your peace because it didn't look good for a while, and came through the other side. And then the most maddening thing is then we were directly in what's called the horse latitudes, which is when the old time sailors used to start going crazy and start pitching all the horses over the side to lighten the boat, because it was just like sailing on a mirror. There was no wind, no waves, nothing, which was almost more maddening than the storm.
Wow.
So
very true.
Mental gymnastics.
Yeah, we've got a few things from out in the chat now. Got a few things from Ragtie. If the first one from Ragtie says, if you could attend any punk concert, old or new, who would it be, and which makers would you take with him? You can take 2.
Oh man, let's see. Sex Pistols, Violent Femmes, and you have to see the clash. And I'd probably take ragtie. And let's say I need somebody. I need Izzy there to sort of clear us a little space in the mosh pit, just to get those elbows up good and tight.
Well, that's fair.
And
the I've got a couple of bends in my nose from elbows in the mosh pit. So.
And the follow-up question from Ragtie is, can I ask you if you are the raven at the door?
No, you cannot ask me that.
Okay.
Some of the Mexican guys I've worked for call me El Muerte, though.
Why is that? Why do they say that?
Well, I have when we were working back in the day in dusk, dark to dark, I would have a habit of showing up in the morning in a black hooded sweatshirt, and then wait till they were in the house or wherever we were working, and then wait for them to catch enough movement outside the window, and it would be me in a black hooded sweatshirt, and they would jump three, into next Tuesday. And one day it came out that they had started calling me El Muerte.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude. So like, because your face would be like floating and you had all the right.
The hood was over, and
I've got a story about that it's just hilarious. But go ahead, JP.
Javi's got another quite good question actually. He goes, out of the people and cultures that you have met here and abroad, what is your favorite personal interaction?
The what again?
Out of all the people and the cultures you have met here and abroad, what is your personal favorite interaction?
Oy. Man, it's been varied, but I got to spend a little bit of time in Yugoslavia back in 80, 81, somewhere in there. Really cool people, really, it was communist, so it was kind of a trip that way. That was pretty cool. The Haitians stay with me just because of their amazing strength. It's one thing to be poor, and it's another to know that it isn't getting better. The chances of it getting better are so minuscule, and they still laugh and love and give, and some of the most caring people I've ever met. The other one would be, I spent some time in Venezuela, and they were just so good to me, and I had just had a ball down there too, and some crazy times down there, and so it's just pure people, honest pure people that just are taking you for what you are, and without any like prejudice or anything like that. That's just where it's magic, even more than a culture. It's just whenever you can find that kind of people, you're home. You're instantly home. That's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like the maker community is. It's home in a weird way, because for years and decades, I didn't have a home with no one. I've always said that the trades guys don't like me and the art guys don't like me. So I was kind of in this no man's land of, I wanted to do this creative stuff, but on the other hand, it wasn't cool or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get exposed, thanks to Andrew Aragon, who drugged me kicking and screaming online. I found basically it's a home, a culture.
How did you meet Aragon? I don't
remember. Well, I need to ask him, but basically he reached out to me, and asked me to join the I Like to Make Stuff group, the closed group on Facebook. And I had avoided, I didn't really like most of the woodworkers I had met. I thought they were kind of in a turf war. And
yeah. Listen, that's one thing too. If you sprinkle in a little bit of the creativity into the genre, it becomes a pleasure. But if it's just freaking cutting and sawing lumber, and it kills it. You know what I'm saying? For me, I like the inclusion of that. That mixture becomes a thing for me.
Right. And it's, I don't talk a lot about it, but I have a lot of influence of Buddhist philosophy. And the thing that I've been trained to fear more than anything is my own ego. And so if we're joining into, especially this creative type of mindset, without our egos attached, then all of a sudden you can accept people and have a cool free flow of information. And, it's just a pretty cool headspace.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. JP, any final questions out there?
Yeah, I've got another question. There was a question from the Wood Lab. He wants to know SketchUp, pencil and paper, direct from the brain to material, or some combination thereof.
It's a combination. Basically, I go from concept to like, I don't know, maybe a 10-minute, what I call a puke out, which is just getting all of the parameters on a piece of paper. And then it's direct to material from there for me. I'm a 3D guy. And I mean, I can't do that with all the projects. I mean, you start building 29-foot tall pieces of furniture, you have to be a little more disciplined than that, because you find out pretty quick that if you're off a little bit, it gets weird in a hurry.
Wood Lab is Jim, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Good question, though. That's
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but I'm not that kind of a guy who needs a cut list or wants one. I don't know. I think a lot of that has to do with doing it for a long time and doing it for a living. You just you're doing it every day for 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever. So you kind of get this comfort level with just knowing how much material you need and you go from there.
I've actually got a question. No, it's not a question. It's more of a request. Can you do a quick give me a minute?
Talk about putting the guy on the spot. And by the way, after you're done with the give me a minute, another request, can you do a little bit of a dance?
There we go. That's all you get. I don't want to break the internet. Yeah, I'll give you a minute. Hey, Andy Berkey, give me a minute. Episode Infinity. Here's the deal. Quit whining about how hard everything is in the shop. It's hard. That's why we like it. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So revel in the fact that you are out there busting your butt to learn something new and create something cool. It's not a whine. It's not something you need to whine about. It's something you need to take pride in. Enjoy it. And your neighbors will be jealous of you.
That's what I'm talking
Berkey
about.
out.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
talking about.
Wow.
I'll drink
that one came from nowhere. Cheers.
Oh, wait. I've got mine. Right here. So JP, actually, yeah, let's do it like that. JP, any final? Actually, no. Let's go with Berkey first. I forget my manners. Berkey, couple of questions, and then we'll wrap up. Did you enjoy it?
Total good. I could. Let's keep going. What is it?
Wait.
Let's go. Come on, let's go.
Oh, he's inspired. Well, you guys out there, add some questions to the chat, and I want to mention a couple of things. So for those of you that don't know Berkey, down below in the description we have links, and he just mentioned earlier, for those of you that just came on later, that he's mostly at the moment posting on Instagram, so you can find him there, but you can also find him at his website, which is hashtag blame Berkey, or is it just, did you add the hashtag just for the graphics?
No, just blameberkey.com for now.
Blameberkey.com, and we have that link down below as well. So Berkey, hit us with it. Ask us some questions. You want to go crazy?
Oh boy, here we go. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I want to see. You want to travel down the road? Let's go crazy, baby.
All righty. Yeah. What? Tell me about the darkness. Tell me about those times when it ain't cool in your world, and you step into your shop. What happens?
You know, it's chaotic. Everything around, when you get to a certain point that you realize that everything around you, life, you know, things are very random, although everything seems to be in its place. But at any given minute, your world can come undone. And this is a reality. Now, we live our lives not trying to avoid thinking of that. I have it ever present because of life experience of my own, tragedies and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. When
I go to the shop, which is outdoors for me, which, by the way, it's back there, and then I bring stuff in, it's very difficult. It gives me space and breaks off a moment to myself where I can enjoy the process of building and the prospect of creating something. And it's energizing, it's refreshing. So that's kind of, that would be my answer.
Mm-hmm. JP?
For me, obviously years and years ago, there was times when I didn't want to leave my bedroom, to be honest, a lot of the time, for whatever reason. I mean, if I was to lift up my hat, you'll see a scar going right there across there and one going that direction. It's like someone tried drawing on my forehead with a knife. Mm-hmm. So that I was kind of secluded myself for a little while, and I didn't want to come out, which really put me in a dark place. And then one day I kind of found Sterling's video, found the scroll store, and found the maker community. And that's when I started kind of taking woodworking a bit more seriously and started getting out in the workshop a bit more often, if you like. And then the more I found the community a bit more often was when I decided to find YouTube a bit more. And the only thing that really keeps me outside, stops me from going outside now, is really the weather. And then I'll come inside, and then all of a sudden I'll look down at my bloody legs, see Seymour mate Berg in there, say, put a coat on and get back out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what that's what I talk about the motivation thing. You say, get back out there. Do you know what I mean? And it seems like nothing can keep me from going out there now. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I love going out there, and when you're trying to turn something, and it's to the point where you're watching people and you're supposed to move with a flow like this when you're turning something, and you can't move your arms because you're wearing a t-shirt, a jumper, a fleece, a coat, and you're walking like you got the roller carpet under each arm. So, do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a good feeling knowing that a few years ago you couldn't leave your bedroom, and now you can't. You don't want to be in that bedroom because it's a reminder of what used to be.
Right. Nice.
You know, the only time I go in that bedroom now is to sleep. Mm-hmm. That's it. You know, so I kind of got that's why I owe a hell of a lot to this magnet community. and Seymour.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I'm kind of the same way with the community. I feel like I cannot give back half of what the maker community has given me, because they gave me back the joy of being in my creative space. You know, I was at a point not too long ago where I was just cashing it in, man. I was just making stuff for the money. Kind of pissed that nobody really wanted to hear the information that I had in my head. You know, and you know, it's a weird thing, but you know, I'm in decline. You know, after 35 years of beating myself up and hauling heavy stuff around and breathing sawdust, and you know, I'm not as strong as I used to be. So, you know, when you see that horizon, you know, on the end, and your creative spirit is sort of gone, all of a sudden, you know, you get this adrenaline shot of you guys saying, dude, you know, that's cool stuff. How'd you do that? Or whatever. You know, to me, it really like, I don't know. It's,
yeah. I see, you know, that's an amazing thing. We're interested, right? The community, and we're talking about
right.
Not one or two people. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people out there. It really is a special class of people. I think that the mixture, see, if one is just like the carpenters around here, it's just that you're saying, right? Hammering, and then beers at the end after 5, you know, or later, and that's it. Nothing else, you know. But with the inclusion, to me, of video, for instance, this medium where, and forums and all that, this sort of mixture, like gravity pulls in people that have, to different degrees, this magic, you know, and creativity. I like woodworking. I love it. With the inclusion, I don't like absence of soul. I've never liked absence of soul, ever. And I think that, you know, regardless of people's different dispositions and all that, there is soul. Yeah.
I agree. It's a full sensory, to me. It's full on. That's how, for me, I really enjoy cooking, because it's the exact same headspace of, you know, being fully involved in the creation of something. And, you know, like I've said, I'm more fascinated at this point in my life by, you know, these guys, Dan the Maker Man, making those unbelievable knives, and Bobby Duke, you know, what the heck? That dude's nuts, man. He's insane.
Yeah, he's insane. He's insane.
Yeah.
Bobby Duke.
There it is. Like you guys have probably heard me say, you know, all the weird kids in the back art class. There you go. I'm more interested in what they're making. Taylor, the girl lives in Iowa that does baking, crazy baking, and makes her own yarn. What in the world? You know, I love that stuff. And to me, it's the exact same thing as Elon Musk is doing at SpaceX right now. It's just hanging it out there, not knowing what they're doing, making educated guesses and going like hell. Yeah. That's what it's about. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it's something that you can't wrap your head around. It's such a powerful thing. All these people creating and all these ideas. I'm always in shock and awe about it as well. You know,
right.
It's you can't find that because of the internet. And it's funny if you think about it, because of the internet and this people that are like-minded, somehow there's obvious reasons, right? You post a picture of a church steeple that you repair, or this guy does this, or a skull, or wood turning, but people that are like-minded tend to gather, and
Right.
it's a beautiful freaking place to gather. I'll tell you what, you know.
That's the commonality is the basis of it, but the diversity is the strength of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what keeps it really interesting to me. You know, when I went out and visited Carl and Robin in Portland, Oregon in July, you know, I have never been around a lathe in my life. And it was just so fascinating to.
I saw that live.
Did you? On Instagram? That was a great one. It was fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, the ease that Carl moves around that tool. I mean, to me, I'm looking at it going, man, that's a hunk of wood spinning at, you know, 10,000 RPM or whatever. It's like, man. But, you know, to see his ease with it, and then, you know, you walk in and Robin and Carl, it's like your brothers and sister right from the moment you walk in the door, and it was just a magical 2 days for me. They're probably like, oh my God, please, Andy, get out of here.
Well, you know,
but I loved it.
You know what though? It's weird.
Robin's out in the chat and she just put her love art.
Oh, that's great. It's weird that you mentioned that. It actually is quite normal. You would expect that even though you're seeing people on the internet and in chats and all that, that you'd feel some sort of awkwardness if you met, or you know, like an adjustment period by right. meeting them. And when Jamie Page came over, I was like, oh, there's Jamie Page, yep. right? I was happy, so I said, oh wow, Jamie Page. But it felt like, yeah, that's Jamie Page, and let's go hang out. Right? It's an amazing thing.
Right. Right. It's.
I looked at his door, remembered his video, and said, "You missed a bit."
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was funny in I think August we went to Jimmy's for the teepee raising, and I think there was 30 or 40 creator types there, and you know, going there, I thought to myself, kind of like, okay, this will be interesting to see if, you know, it's one thing to get along with one or two people, but can you get along with 30 or 40, you know, very similar minded people? And again, you drive up and, you know, Jay Rivera grabbed me and then grabbed Chris Cute, and we're riding around in a free candy van and pull up to Jimmy's and pile out, and people just like, you know, descend on you. And it's a absolute magic headspace for, you know, three or 4 days I was there, and 3, I guess. And
oh, that's right.
It's magic.
You did the teepee, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea how that happened, to be honest.
Yeah, that came out incredible.
Are there any questions from the last time that I mentioned out on the chat?
Yes,
okay.
There was. There's one from Sterling. He said, with all of the religious restorations for some pretty big churches, how does that play with your mind frame of thinking, knowing what it means to the person or group of people you're restoring it for?
You know, it's heavy. It's something that I take very, very seriously, and I'm very respectful. I'll tell you a story that I hope I can get through. I don't know, Sterling, I may have told you this one, but the big altarpiece, the biggest altarpiece that I've built is 29 feet tall and 19 feet wide. And I was working on it around kind of the backside, and my brother-in-law, when we're in the church proper, Catholic church, and my brother-in-law kind of came around the backside and he said, "Hey man, you better deal with this," or something like that. I was like, "What?" And so, you know, it's an empty church, middle of the week. So I get down off my ladder and kind of come around the side, and there's like an 80-year-old guy just openly weeping in the front pew of the church. And I'm like, oh boy, how do you deal with this one? I don't know what's going on. And, when we're in full work mode, and so I dropped my belt and went down and just kind of said, hey, is there anything I can do? Can I go get the priest for you? And he looks up at me and he says, no, you've done quite enough. And I was like, oh, what did I do? And he said, the last time I saw this altar like this in this church, my bride was kneeling at it at our wedding. And like 65 years ago.
I just got chills, dude. That's amazing.
Dude, I get them every time I tell the story.
I got chills right now, dude. That's incredible.
But and I sat there and I'll be honest, I started crying with him too, because it was such an impactful deal. And so about a week later, he came in and he had taken all of his wedding pictures from like 1940 or something like that, and he had copied all of them to 8x10s and gave us a full set. All the ones with like altar pieces in it and stuff like that. And to this day, I've got a picture of his bride upstairs kneeling at the altar that was there before the one that we built. So,
wow.
So yeah,
damn, Berkey. Wow.
So stuff like that, you take it serious. You don't we don't listen to country and western. We don't listen to, when we're in a church, we listen to classical music or Gregorian chants, or we try to be very respectful of the space and
Ozzy Osbourne.
No, yeah, it's crazy, because guys, it's amazing. Like if I'm project managing and have electricians and plumbers and carpet layers, they don't think anything of setting their boombox down and cranking up some
AC/DC.
Yeah, something. The one that I remember was kind of the modern country, and I came in right when something was going that was just was completely inappropriate for the space, and it was like, I turned it off and I just shut the site down and brought everybody down from, wherever they were in the building and just said, look, we're not doing this. And if you have a problem with it, I totally get it. It's not a normal job site. But this is how we do things here. And typically guys buy in, once they get it, they figure it out. They buy in and they're all in. I've had a few that say basically,
you have to be a very like a dense block not to get it, after it's been explained, but there's room for all of that, right?
Yeah. It's kind of a macho thing to not get it, that kind of plays in, and
yeah.
And I understand it. I would have probably looked sideways at it when I was younger too, but yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
There's a couple more questions. You got one from Shogun Jimmy. He says, Andy, tell us about how you started to wood carve.
It sounds like he already knows. Well, I got a big church job, one of the biggest church jobs, and there was a lot of carving that needed to be done. And I got the job to the tune of about, I was into it about $400,000 worth of signed contracts, and I didn't know how to carve at all. So I went and found a woodworking school that had Mac Headley Jr., who was the current master carpenter at Colonial Williamsburg. He was teaching a class, and so I went and basically the first break he said something to the effect of, "Why are you here? You're not like the rest of the children." and who are, basically just guys that, were trying to get away from their jobs and stuff and spend a week carving wood. I had a little more of a panicked look on my face, apparently, and I told him what I had done. And he just goes, dude, you're insane. Let's go get down here at the front row. And by the end of the week, I had a pretty rudimentary skill set that I could hone from there. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool, very cool hippie type guy. And by the end of the week, we were giving him, he was giving me crap. And I said, look, man, at least I don't have to wear pajamas to work every day like you do. And,
I do want to, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Andy.
Yeah, because they have to wear costumes every day,
I do want to say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Did you
I was just clearing my throat.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say that I do want to plug again Jack Bench, his channel, and his interview of Andy. If you guys, it's a very extended interview, but it's awesome. There's so many nuggets of information in that interview that it's just a pleasure to listen to, because there's a lot of stories. I think that story's in there too, no?
I think so. I've told that a couple of times. Shogun Jimmy probably remembers where it is. But yeah, Charlie Kasorik, Jack Bench Woodworking, spent a day with me here, and we had a ball. And you just don't get a better guy than Charlie. He's just a good egg.
Yeah, he does some great interviews. He goes out there and just amazing. So now we are going to wrap this up. I do want to repeat what I said before. And you enjoyed it apparently because you wanted to stick around. So would you come back and see us again?
Call me.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I've got Berkey's number. Won't share it. So Berkey, just if you want to do any shout outs and any final thoughts, where they can find you. Although I have it plastered down there, but still, if you want to repeat it so that people hear it from you.
Cool. You can find me pretty much everywhere under Andy Birkey, Birkey. Just look for Seymour Make Better logo. You'll know you're in the right place. So blameberkey.com. And, I just want to, it sounds cliche or whatever, but you guys are the reason that I do what I do, because you inspire me. You encourage me. Like Jamie has his Seymour tattoo. I've got my Jimmy DiResta I make plate. Yeah. No, I walk by my.
No, wait. You need to start tattooing. You have to take it up a notch.
No, but my I make plate, Jamie, it operates very much the same way. I'll walk by that license plate on my truck, and I'm like, oh crap. I mean, I wanted to go in and have a couple beers and lay down on the couch, but I know that Jimmy DiResta is out in his shop right now. And he's getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
So
you gotta try and keep up.
I gotta go.
Yeah. That's what it is. You know, especially if you're wearing shorts, it's sort of like he's looking at you.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah. I just want to say thanks to the community. You guys, man, I owe you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. JP, any final?
I just want to mention the two fundraisers again.
Yes.
One of the fundraisers, obviously, for Carl Jacobson and Robin Jacobson for the mobile makerspace. I'll put the links. I'm sure I'll put them in the description of the video. And the other one for William Osman, who recently lost everything in a large fire. So yeah, they'll be in the description of the video. So that's basically it. And you can find my YouTube channel at JP Woodwork.
Well, thank you. So I want to thank all of you guys out there for coming out and hanging out with us. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for the guest, Andy. You're awesome. I appreciate it. It was such a great, you know, interview, and JP for everything that you do, you know. If you guys want to help out, check out all the links and stuff. We have links, you know, websites and Andy's links, JP's. So go check those out. We'll catch you guys next week, and we're out of here. We're done. See ya.
Berkey out.